president of Somalia is our president. That's what Ilhan Omar says in this clip. This is going to be about the coming orchestrated attempt at a civil war by the Democrat Party. Welcome to Doug in Exile. This is where the happy patriots are. And a shout out to my LA patriots. We've got your back. Do not fear. The American patriot is on the ground. We're going to find out if LA and every major city in America, it's spreading now to Atlanta. We have clips from Austin, Dallas, New York. It's supposed to be spreading to Chicago by tonight. We're going to document all of the movements of this Democrat effort to undermine the peaceful transfer of power to Trump and Republicans. Remember, they all said Trump was against the peaceful transfer of power. This riot is what the Democrats mean by a peaceful transfer of power. Hope you'll subscribe if you want more. Let's check her out. Here's Ilhan Omar.
In caawa aan fursad u helay madaxweynaha Soomaaliya madaxweyne Xasan Sheikh.
I'm going to turn her down a little bit. Let us give him a warm welcome, Minneapolis. The president and I have a special relationship, probably like her and her brother. I call him uncle and he calls me his girl. Is that what feminists think is nice now, is that he can call you a girl? Welcome to your home. Our home is your home. Welcome to Minneapolis. We are very happy that Hassan is our president. Somalia is our home. She's saying this from here. It is home who do not feel that it is far from us. Somalia is our heart. It is in our hearts. Okay, this is treason of some kind, her being leadership. It's even worse if this is on foreign soil or here. The sentiment is what's wrong. But it is not just Ilhan Omar. This is about everyone who's supporting Mexican illegal immigrants, for which they're estimating there's about 1 million in LA. And some of them, we're going to find other members of other countries that are here illegally, and even in our current government, of course, in the Democrat Party. This is being an overrunning of our country by illegals.
Are the protests or the ICE raids having a bigger impact on the city of Los Angeles?
Well, right now, I would argue the protests are having a bigger impact on what is taking place downtown. I mean, this is not peaceful protests. These are anarchists who are going in and really opportunists. They're taking advantage of a situation that unfortunately continues to escalate. But there are those that are embedded that are really attacking law enforcement. This is not about ICE. This is about completely dismantling law enforcement.
My question is, what happens? Will anything happen to them? I don't know. That comes down to a cultural marketing. And so a lot of this episode is also about the marketing and funding of both the Republican efforts and the Democrat efforts.
This was chaos that was started in Washington, D.C. On Thursday, the city was peaceful. On Friday, it was not, because of the intervention of the federal government. Because this is the Democrats' big A plan to destroy the efforts of Donald Trump. I'm going to make that case all day today.
And even those who were out of step with what we are advocating, peaceful protest, did not create any violence. Nobody was shot. Nobody was killed. Get it in your head. Don't think that somehow, because they called out the National Guard, there was violence. There was no violence.
Now, this is Eric Adams out in New York. It says, Eric Adams condemns LA's anti-ICE riots and warns New Yorkers similar protests would not be tolerated if attempted in New York City. They are being attempted, and he's shutting them down. Here's Mike Davis. This is precisely why President Trump was correct to drop Biden's bogus charges against New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Charges brought because Adams opposed Biden's foreign invasion. Remember, Eric Adams was left alone until he started saying they're overwhelming our services. You have to do something about the border. And suddenly, charges come up against him for fraud. And this is New York busting.
Come on, let's go. Come on. Let's go.
This is a white, these are white, privileged, rich kids, protesters, trust fund kids. There's another one. Look, get him. Get him. Get the zip ties on him. That's the makeup of these aren't normal citizens of New York. These aren't neighbors. These aren't families. They don't want their cities burned down. They don't want their cities protested. Normal American patriots, including the patriots in New York, don't want lawlessness. And it's not illegal to protest, but it is illegal to throw stuff at police officers, throw rocks, make threatening statements.
Start off on the fact that immigrant citizens, immigrant voters, foreign-born voters have gone tremendously to the right on this issue in 2024 and 2025 versus where they were in 2020. Closest to or trust more in immigration. You go back to 2020. Democrats, get this, held a 32-point lead on this issue. Immigrant voters were in the Democratic camp. Jump forward to 2024, 2025. Look at that shift, a 40-point shift to the right among immigrant voters. Republicans now lead on this issue.
This is Walter Hudson, who calls out a House Democrat. This is a House Democrat, a member of your representative government, who is an illegal alien.
Are illegal immigrants. Check this out.
The only people that had names to come to the U.S. were if you were in the direct military and you worked for the CIA or you worked for USAID. And which
ding, ding, ding. There's the tie to USAID. The USAID was being used to bring illegals into the country. This lady talks about how they helped her long ago and her family to come into this country. And now she's a Democrat fighting against this country.
Which is why it's so personal to me that USAID is getting unfunded. But we did not do either one of those. My parents' Christian organization did not count.
Christian organization that tried, but it didn't work through. These are liberal, Christian in name only. I call them Chinos, Christian in name only.
And so what my father did was one of our uncles worked for USAID. And because his mother had died, my father, as the one processing the paperwork, put my grandmother down as his mother. And so I am illegal in this country. My parents are illegal here in this country.
That's a bit of a problem.
Yeah, we're going to have to deport you is the problem. This has to be cleaned up. It shows how this is what the Democrats are trying to do. Look, if you support illegal aliens as citizens, then citizenship means nothing. That's the bottom line. That's going to be the argument probably to be made by both parties for the entire summer is if you allow 1 million illegal aliens to be considered citizens in LA, then citizenship in America means nothing. That is a hardcore leftist principle going all the way back to Marx. However, it's going to create a divide among Democrats. Here's Chris Cillizza. You're going to start seeing Democrats bailing on the party. I've got a couple of these clips too. These are mainstream Democrats going, this is a bad idea.
Democrats appear entirely comfortable with playing along on this, which is colossally stupid from a political perspective. Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, was on MSNBC on Sunday night, where he basically said, like, to Tom Homan, the guy, Trump's border czar, he basically said, why doesn't Tom Homan just come and arrest me? He's not such a tough guy. I don't know why that would, this is not about Gavin Newsom, right? To personalize it like that makes no sense. Or how about Maxine Waters, Los Angeles area Democratic representative in Congress? She said, quote, I don't know why we have guns. What are those guns for? Are they to shoot protesters? Again, if you are looking at the images coming up on your TV screen, cars on fire, looting, people defacing buildings, and then you hear Maxine Waters say, what are these cops doing? That feels tone deaf.
That feels tone deaf to this Democrat, Chris Cillizza. Remember, this is one of the guys that helped cover up Biden's illness. Now, what you found last week is the Trump-Elon Musk argument split MAGA. Some went with Trump, some went with, and this big, beautiful bill. Half are going with Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Mike Johnson. Half are going with Rand Paul and the libertarian guys. And instead, the whole conversation suddenly changed over the weekend. Now the Democrat Party is split. Good Good tactic. Chris Cillizza is on the side against the rioting, and half the Democrat Party is for it. It's not just Democrats that are split, though. Look, here's a libertarian. Now, libertarians, as you know, are Democrat light. They're just like an atheistic version of Democrats. I do not like libertarians. I don't agree with them whatsoever. Anyone who claims to be a libertarian is completely deceived. It is just as satanic as the left. This guy who's wearing his libertarian pro Elon Musk t-shirt, the Democrat Party just lost him, or I should say the Libertarian Party, which does not, Libertarian Party, mainstream libertarianism believes in open borders, because a border is something an atheist cannot believe in. It's an arbitrary line in the sand. Now watch this guy who is a lifelong libertarian.
As a libertarian, I've been a longtime believer in open borders. And I'd like at this point to thank Governor Newsom, Elizabeth Warren, and the Democratic Party in general for persuading me that I was wrong and that open borders are actually a bad idea. It hadn't occurred to me that if you had, I understood there was risks that some people would come in that you wouldn't want to come into your country. I hadn't anticipated that there would be an organized effort by bad people to bring bad people into our country to commit crimes, to do all kinds of bad things. If I had realized that, I didn't realize the extent of the depravity of the radical left and whoever the hell these idiots are, that somebody would consciously try to invade the country in the way that they have. And
yeah, well, you show a lack of knowledge just by being a libertarian. So wait till you learn the rest of, the more you learn, never put an X next to a Democrat. Oh, and follow that up with never put an X next to a libertarian. Now, this is about the riots being, and by the way, to my libertarian people out there, thank you for watching this channel. I will continue to convince you that Republican is a better stance and a more sound argument to be made for those people who believe in the Constitution in America. Here is how the riots are completely funded. You're going to see them handing out face masks in bulk in this truck trying to help the riots. This is expensive equipment, these masks.
To describe where it just feels like something's going to happen and you're waiting for it to happen. And you can look around, you see the National Guard in front of the federal building, but as far as this intersection where we're seeing all this take place, there's no local police to be seen. Yeah. And we have people handing out masks and gas masks, and
let's take a look at those gas masks real quick. Here's Alex Michelson over on Twitter. Breaking, we just saw people arrive in downtown LA with truckloads of bionic face shields that the demonstrators quickly grabbed. It certainly seems like gear you'd wear if you're preparing for conflict with police. Who is funding this? Let's look at a close-up of the mask's features. UVEX bionic face shield. This is what they were handing out on those streets in bulk. Full frame design, totally protects head and neck from chemical splashes and flying degrees. Recommended for machinists and auto body shops and communists, illegal rioters. Here's Andy No down here. Far left extremists set up a website to crowdfund riot gear for the open border insurrectionists in Los Angeles, similar to what they did in 2020 in Portland, Seattle, and elsewhere. This is funded. It's organized by the Democrat Party. And here's another Democrat. You guys have seen me quote the All In podcast here. And he's going, this is another Democrat. They're going to lose. This is on the theme of this show. Ilhan Omar is one set of values, and many of the anti-Trump Democrats are going to come over to the Republican Party.
Is Donald Trump potentially playing politics a little bit? Yeah, I think he probably is. I find it hard to believe the timing is not a coincidence that he had a bad end to last week. That said, and you know, this is politics in general, this both parties engage in stuff like that. I think the Democratic Party's kind of lost its mind. I think that you cannot tolerate that people are harming government property and harming federal officials executing the job.
Hold on. This is Dan Turrentine, Democrat, from that All In podcast, and or two-way podcast. He goes, you cannot tolerate. Oh no, Dan, your party isn't just tolerating it. Your party is defending it, promoting it, funding it. They've passed laws to completely reorient USAID and NGOs money to the tune of about $150 million now into these radical leftist things. You're in the wrong party. This is going to split the Democrat Party, and they're going to have a tough decision. He's going to have to decide, do you hate Trump enough to side with radical, communist, evil countries that are invading us? Because that's what's happening, my naive little brother. We're going to find out him. This is going to go to more reasonable guys, even like Bill Maher. We're going to hear from John Fetterman later today. Even John Fetterman is not for this. This split the Democrat Party right down the middle. And I'm happy politically, because if the Democrat Party remains united and they win another election, these radicals will take over. This brand is on you, Dan, all you Democrats. This turd is on your wedding dress, and it's ugly. Here's Rep. Anna Paula Luna on the radical funding of this thing.
Just found a really great deep dive here from the Data Republican on X. So who is behind all these crazy riots in LA and that will be across the nation? Just like remember in the Summer of Love with BLM, remember who's organizing all that stuff. With this specifically is being funded by an individual by the name of Neville Singham, who actually made his money by pushing communist Chinese propaganda, became a billionaire doing it. He's now funding, and the guy behind all of these protests was also behind and tied to the protests at Columbia University, pushing all of that BS, if you don't remember. And then also, too, if you actually look at the social organization that's putting out these flyers, it's the Party for Socialism and Liberation, which is, and I kid you not, the actual Communist Party. So there.
It's China. Remember, Trump said it back in 2016. China. Is he a prophet? How did he know? This apparently has deep ties to George Soros, any communist organization. There's a reason why communists want to pay for this. These riots have always been communist. And the Democrat Party, time for you to wake up. See, the Democrat Party is always trying to make the Republicans look like we're in bed with Nazis, which we're not. The truth is they're hiding that the Democrat Party is utterly funded and in bed with communists. It's more accurate to say you guys are communists than we're Nazis. There's not a lot of evidence that we're Nazis, but there are. I don't see Nazis being funded by some Germanic, anti-Jew cult funding the Republican Party. No, your candidates are funded by communists, Chinese communists.
They're using Hispanics, they're using illegal immigrants, they're trying to hype people up thinking.
Yeah, it's important to not blame Mexicans. We love Mexican food. Don't blame Mexicans. It's not a race. It's not about blacks. It's not even about Palestinians. They're being used. They're useful idiots. Remember that. The Democrat Party, by the way, even has an arm's length distance from all of these charities because they don't want to get caught holding the bag. So they want these charities to all run off. They want these radicals out in the streets. They'll give them bricks and mortar and stuff to help them to throw at cop cars, but they don't want to get caught with it.
That they care, but they don't care. They would stop illegal immigration. Obama deported people. Why all of a sudden now?
Yeah, it's not politically expedient anymore is why they don't now. They look to their right and they look to their left. This is going back to the split in the Democrat Party. Remember, Tim Cook of Apple is a hardcore Democrat, probably a little bit anti-Trump, but his best shot is to jump in bed with Trump. Because here's the Apple store in LA being vandalized last night and looted. Buddy, you're in the wrong party. You see these all masked. They're mostly white. There are a few minorities, and they're mostly white, though, getting their free gear, looting. Looting in the name of Palestine. They're here for Palestine and illegals. That's why they need more iPhones, Apple software. Okay, this is about the spread now. This is Dallas. Look at the Dallas. They're coming in and they're busting these guys hard.
This is exactly why some of the conversations they're having inside the administration that I'm hearing about they are not going to back down from Los Angeles because they.
Okay, that's Dallas. The ICE riots are spreading. The illegal communist riots are spreading. Look, here it is in Austin. They have the same signs. Palestinian flags. They're all masked. Lots of white kids in there. Lots of privileged, rich. Daddy bought me my college degree. Of course, upside down American flags. Even though America is what allows free speech to protest, and you ought to be incredibly thankful for your country. This says, breaking, Austin declares the anti-ICE protest an unlawful assembly. So now once it gets troublesome and violent, they can call it an unlawful assembly, and you do not have a First Amendment right to assemble and block roads and things like that, which usually triggers the unlawful assembly. This was from, I don't know if this was last night or the night before, but this is LA law enforcement. The cops are ignoring a fire being set in a car right in front of them. This is why Trump has to bring in the National Guard and maybe the Marines even to support them.
Now, so when are we going to crack down? What's the time to make that call?
That's a great point.
There's a fire now that's being set.
It is, and this is not the first time. This is called arson. This is a felony. This is an arson.
Okay, look at the fire flames licking up to that tree. This is in LA, which just came out of the Palisades fires. Remember, they're going like, who set the fire? Gavin Newsom goes, it was dry, 100-mile-an-hour wind. Well, what about now that you know that it's the Democrat Party and your radicals that you're paying for that are setting fires? Is that not a sensitive subject in LA? Why would this not be just for alarm? And the cops are sitting by and watching it happen. Democrat rule. Never put an X next to a Democrat. Now, here's more on the tactics of scrambling the message, because they're starting to say, hey, are you going to carry an American flag? The only time an American flag is being carried by these radicals is when it is planned. They're not carrying it because it's patriot. It's marketing.
Are you going to help those American flags? We got rid of all of them when they started coming. We were sitting ducks here, so we...
How many did you guys be able to
wait.
I think we got 5 or 6 out.
If you ask the Subaru right there...
But they're not put together.
Oh, they're not put together.
If you ask the super right there, they're organizing which flag are they going to carry to use as a shield. That's because all of these evil, duplicitous, lying organizations do not carry the true flag that represents them. They use flags as marketing, which is where the phrase that we use for false flag. It's when you carry the enemy's flag. And that's what they called the American flag in yesterday's video. They called it, we're going to carry the enemy's flag, the American flag, because we don't want the enemy to be the only one carrying that flag. And this is what terrorists always do. They hide among civilians. They hide among deception so that you cannot track who they are. And I actually have more on this this video will help make my case for that one. Here's literally a terrorist form of hiding behind civilians. Watch this. These local
woman in a minivan. I don't even know how she got into this corner. She's in the corner. She's trying to get out of her car. Protesters are trying to help.
Okay, now look at this in the middle. This now CBS News is too dumb to recognize what's going on. You'll see in the middle here, this is a car. The cops are aligned on the other side of the car. See the cops? And the people are hiding behind the car an innocent civilian car as it drives through the intersection. And that's what Hamas did. They hide their troops behind innocent civilians. You'll see this over and over again in their tactics. This is a Hamas terrorist tactic.
They're trying to help her, but
they're not trying to help her.
This is really hectic right here. You can see other cars also. I'm kind of hiding behind this sign.
Yeah, look over here.
Should
as the
law
car
enforcement
turns to
start
the
to use
intersection,
less lethal
right here,
tools,
they
I
all hide
don't want to get
behind the
hit by
car
that.
and put it between them and the police.
You can see this has really devolved very quickly. These cars,
they're hiding
I don't know what
behind the
these cars are.
as it goes to the intersection. See them walking with it?
These cars are doing here.
Why are they there?
Yeah, why?
Why is that?
Look at them walking with the car, hiding behind a civilian. Take this old lady and her grandkids instead of us. These aren't brave warriors. These are criminal cowards. Here's Charlie Kirk.
They get away. They say, we want it to be peaceful, but he knows very well how it will go if we get more.
And that's why I fully support President Trump meeting it at the intensity that it's at. I think we should be unafraid to sign the 1807 Insurrection Act if this continues. We cannot allow what happened in 2020, where we said, well, local state officials, nope, not going to happen. We are going to meet force with force. You're going after police officers. We'll bring in the National Guard. We'll bring in the Marines. If you remember the May of 1992 Rodney King riots, they were engulfing Los Angeles. H.W. Bush signs the Insurrection Act. Within like half an hour, all of those thugs and all of those bandits went home and scattered because they were met with the one thing they understand. The only thing that what you are seeing on the streets right now, they understand, it's not reason, it's not persuasion, it's not acquiescence, it's not surrender, it is force. That's it. And unfortunately,
that's it. They only know force. And by the way, the moment Trump signs that Insurrection Act, these riots will be over. Here's the last one on Ilhan Omar welcoming this guy over to blaspheme the United States. Rep. Ilhan Omar attended a pro-Somalian event and smiles when she's introduced as someone whose interests lie with Somalia, not America.
إلهان معها قضية إلهان معها قضية مينيسوتا معها قضية غير مريكان قضية إلهان وقضية صوماليا.
Ilhan Omar's interests are of the Somalian people. And that is what the Democrat Party is split by. And a whole bunch of them need to come over to the only party that believes in citizenship, loves America. And Democrats, if you're voting for this, if you're supporting these candidates, if you're supporting the Democrat Party, you're supporting any country but America. I'm Doug in Exile.